Hey guys, it's Valerie Williams with C2Financial, the nation's #1 mortgage broker, and I am here with Heather Wendlandt. Welcome, Kolker Real Estate.
Good job.
Good,
Yay.
yeah. How's things going?
Oh, it's going. It's
This is a wild market. I'm seeing inspection waivers. I'm seeing appraisal waivers, and I think that's something we want to touch on is what an appraisal waiver is, what an appraisal contingency waiver is, because they're two different things.
Yep.
So can you start with what is an appraisal contingency waiver?
Okay, so in today's market, you have to be putting your best foot forward if you want any chance of buying a home. You have to be extremely aggressive with your offer. That means coming above asking, 50, 100,000 plus.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? Sky's the limit depending on how the property is set up. But also you have to be willing and able to waive your appraisals. If you don't submit an offer that way, you know you're going to get countered by the seller saying, hey, remove your appraisal contingency. So in the transaction, there's the inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and loan contingency. The loan contingency, if you have a loan, you can't remove that.
Right.
Like you can't do that. You could remove the inspection contingency, I wouldn't advise that. But the appraisal is the one that's getting sellers and buyers in today's market.
And why?
Because what happens is once an appraisal happens in today's market, appraisers in general look at past historical data to tell what the current market price is of a home. So they're looking backwards at a price that in this market each month is going up 50 or 100,000.
Right.
So they're behind the 8 ball basically in this whole process because they're looking at historical data and they're looking at comps to support today's price. But when there's 30 offers or 20 offers or whatnot, in order for you to get your offer accepted, you have to remove that because if not, the seller, if the appraisal comes in $100,000 less than your contracted price, then the seller will basically say, well, if you didn't remove that appraisal, the seller could have to come down rather that price or meet in the middle, and they don't want to. Sellers right now are in the driver's seats. They're not willing to make those concessions because they can get their contract
and the
price.
market's moving up anyway, so if you're buying a property that the appraisal comes in low, in 6 months from now, you're going to be with equity in line with that appraisal, if not above it,
Yes, absolutely. So by removing your appraisal and by the seller, it's in the seller's main interest, not the buyer's interest, but the seller's interest, because they don't want to they don't want to come down on the contract price if the appraisal comes down low. From a buyer perspective, that means they have to have enough money, enough funds somewhere for them to make up the discrepancy. So if it got appraised $100,000 low on the contract price, that buyer needs to have $100,000 to make up the difference if they remove the appraisal contingency.
And I like to say to people that if they're buying a home and they waive their contingency, and let's say their appraisal comes in maybe 5, 10, 15,000 below what they're contracted at, it doesn't mean that you're buying like a property for more than it's worth. It just means that you're the new comp on the market, you're the new comp on the block, and your neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor's neighbor will be selling in the next 7 to 8 months, 6, anytime. And you'll be the comp that's setting their value, and eventually they're going to be doing the same thing that you did, and so then you'll have equity in your home because there'll be that spread. So that's how fast the market's moving. And we have waivers if you're putting like a good chunk down. I think 5 to 10% or more. We're seeing banks remove appraisal completely, where you don't have to have an appraisal. So the banks are even understanding that the market is turning over so quickly that there's no need for an appraisal in some loans. So sometimes you see that too. It's not really a fear anymore for banks. They're seeing the value there.
I have a client right now actually who has an appraisal waiver. She put 30% down on the property.
Exactly, that'll happen.
And it's like, what's the point? I mean, it was a condo, so it was not like they did the numbers, and it obviously makes sense. If they're putting that much down, there's no need to have an appraisal because the bank, their investment is protected.
I get it. Okay, well, Heather, thank you so much for bringing this to our viewers, because I think it's a topic that doesn't get touched much, and every single person that's in this market is kind of going through something similar. So it sounds like you have a lot of expertise in it. So if anybody is in the market to buy a home and just a little nervous about if they're going to buy something worth what they're buying it for, Heather has that expertise. You can reach out to her, and I'd love to see some success stories with you later on.
Oh yeah, no, I got a bunch of them. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Heather.
your time. Thanks
Of course,
so much.
of course. Thank you guys all so much for watching.
Thank you.